The attic was a forgotten place, thick with the aroma of memories past, a sanctuary of secrets ensconced above a world that had moved on. My fingers left faint trails on the wooden railing as I ascended, with shafts of dusty light filtering through a small attic window, guiding my every step like the dim glow of an ancient lantern leading the way. The boards underfoot groaned softly, reminiscent of my grandfather's old rocking chair in the evenings when he would hum forgotten tunes to lull troubled minds. It was in the furthest corner of this cocoon of dust and history that I stumbled upon the box, its surface speckled with the remnants of forgotten generations. A collection of letters, bound together with a frayed piece of twine, beckoned my curiosity, as if inviting me to unveil still whispered tales. There it was, the first peculiar detail, dates inscribed in the top right corners, extending beyond the reach of known time, as if they had tumbled into recognition from a tomorrow not yet lived. Sifting through those dusty pages, the central question unfurled in my mind like autumn leaves spiraling to earth. Who had penned these musings of love yet to emerge from the void of time? Standing on the edge of certainty, each step felt like a whisper of untold secrets, the date on each letter unraveling an implicit breach of temporal order. As I brushed my fingers over the faded ink, I felt the weight of their mystery, suspended between disbelief and hope. The handwriting spoke in loops and swirls, fluid and deliberate, possessing a cadence that was both enchanting and intimidating. Outside, the distant chatter of children playing merged with my thoughts, a peculiar juxtaposition of present-day innocence against the enigmatic allure of clandestine correspondences. Could it be a trick of the past, perhaps a misunderstood family tradition, or a long-lost practice of crafting futures as an act of profound longing? In the muted glow of the fireplace, each word seemed to dance with hope, casting silhouettes against my quiet despair. I found myself cocooned in the gentle warmth, yet ached with an unspoken loneliness that seeped through like the fine silt of memories best forgotten. Another letter shared a narrative more personal, a note so tender it felt as though it had been written to the fractures of my very soul. The soft rustle of paper being turned confirmed the living testament of feeling bound in these ghostly parchments. A thread of kinship wove itself stealthily into my consciousness. How often have I craved words like these, believing them fantasies? Here they were, no more imagined than the chill-biting wind, inciting the solitude to unravel slightly, like threads from an old quilt, a quilt I might spread to catch whatever future awaited on tomorrow's horizon. The library was a sanctuary of stories, yet these letters told tales beyond its archives. Sunlight streamed through the large windows, laying warm golden patterns across rows of aging books, blending past with present. There, nestled between familiar reading chairs, I spread out the letters in front of me, tracing their elegant script with the reverence one might reserve for a relic. My thumb rubbed the edge of my sleeve, that familiar comfort causing me to pause and view the missives as not just objects, but as vehicles of longing. Each word in these letters felt deliberate, leaving trails that threatened to blanket the skepticism I'd so carefully cultivated. The sweet musk of aged cedarwood lingered, a gentle reminder of the attic's embrace where the letters had laid in wait, waiting for me to imbue them with life once more. This letter spoke of a September evening with the precision of someone who had lived through hundreds of autumns. Yet, a line caught my skeptical eye, a reference to a town event I knew had no place in recorded history. Deerfield's bicentennial celebration dated decades later than the letters claimed to exist. I searched through familiar accounts, hands moving swiftly across listings of town happenings. As a native, I knew my town well, its histories etched deep in the marrow of each resident. This supposed celebration, as ascribed by the letter, had no anchor in any record. Were these letters a woven fiction, a tapestry stitched from a time out of order? The thought lodged itself, fascinating, discrediting, invigorating. Night drew close, lending the room an ethereal quality that matched the letter's mystery. Moonlight cast faint, shifting patterns through the lace curtains, dancing silently across floorboards like phantom guests at a forgotten gala. Reclining on my bed with letters sprawled across the duvet like fallen leaves, I let my thoughts roam paths as undefined as the vaguest outlines of those oak trees swaying against an autumn sky. Nothing about the letters was coincidental. They called at edges of understanding, anchored by an invisible thread linking past and future, reality and dream. But this discord in dates and events was a tangle, a loose end in the fabric of what should have been straightforward. The rustle of leaves outside, a gentle backdrop of nature's music, mirrored the rustling thoughts that refused to settle. As the notion fortified itself that these mismatched details weren't mere oversights, but crafted elements, I was left wondering yet again. Question after question wove through my mind. Who could know Deerfield so intimately yet confound its history? The shadows outside elongated, merging into one another, obliterating the separation between tree and night. While my heart doubted less and less that the author's intent was true, my head acknowledged the unraveling of their claims. They urged me forward, each step compelling me across tomorrow's horizon, which seemed just a bit closer now. There was a distinct irony to my search for truth in letters steeped in uncertainty. In chasing threaded words, I was perhaps piecing together the very quilt my skepticism threatened to fray. Yet for now, the parts mattered less than the whole they promised to become. Each sip from the steaming mug blurred the lines between today and tomorrow. My fingers absent-mindedly traced the grain of the old oak table beneath me, where I laid the letters as though they were ancient runes promising revelations. Steam rose from the coffee cup, a warming contrast to the chill that gnawed at the farmhouse. The ticking of the wall clock was a persistent reminder that time, that swift tyrant, propelled me forward, heedless of my internal confusion. My skepticism warred with desire, an unsophisticated dance of doubt and hope. Could these pages, yellowed and delicate as autumn's last leaf, possibly bear the weight of a future foretold? One letter caught my attention, its edges remarkably unmarred except for a single ink smudge, an imperfection that felt human and purposeful. It spoke of a day not yet come, a meeting beneath the gnarled apple tree in the orchard, just beyond the barn. The author's words whispered of a taste of Avery apples, tart and crisp against my tongue, their juices mingling too readily with the intrusion of destiny. In clear, direct prose that seemed to expect my disbelief, the letter detailed a Sunday visit from an old friend, one who shared my grandfather's penchant for layered stories over layered blankets. Yet as I reread the lines, scrutinizing the curves and dots of familiar penmanship, my heart leapt at the date scrawled at its end, tomorrow. The ticking of a wall clock, a steady tempo that mirrored the rapid swell of my pulse, grounded me in the present yet pulled me toward a precipice I wasn't sure I could face alone. The park was a symphony of nature, yet silent to the chorus unspooling within me. A close-up of falling flower petals drifted gently to the ground, their poignant descent a reminder of seasons turning, life shifting. I settled on a bench, the wooden slats worn smooth from years of occupancy, a contrast to the rough edge of anticipation gnawing at my insides. My thoughts ebbed and flowed like the tide against the shore of understanding, here for a moment, only to be swept back into the ocean of conjecture. Perhaps, just perhaps, this enigmatic correspondent who seemed to know the intimate details of my existence had found a way to whisper across time's horizon. How else to explain their knowledge of secrets only the wind and my closest allies knew? I wondered, too, about chance and inevitability, concepts locked in an endless waltz, shaping our paths in ways unseen. The reflection of clouds drifting across the surface of a still pond drew my focus while my mind roamed. Was this some elaborate jest of which I was the sole focus? That thought flickered like a candlelight in the wind, unsteady but present. I pressed the edge of one sleeve between thumb and forefinger, feeling the familiar texture soothe my restless mind. Yet the letters author wrote with such a sensitive awareness, an understanding of those subtle corners of my existence others often overlooked. Distant birdsong, a delicate serenade, did little to quiet the roar of possibilities swirling within me. The letters predicted rendezvous, speaking of apples from our family's orchard. What of that? It lingered in my consciousness as though placed there deliberately, demanding my attention. The author's foresight demanded examination, an unwelcome compulsion that threatened my skepticism's feeble grip. Beneath layers of doubt lay the undeniable allure of connection, the possibility of companionship filtered through the sieve of shared time and whispered promises. Sunlight fractured through the branches of a towering oak, compelling me to look beyond uncertainty. If the letter's prophecies rang true, I would need to decide whether to embrace the intangible threads of fate or remain cocooned in the familiar comfort of solitude. And though trepidation persisted in every footstep along this uncharted path, there was a hope, an awakening almost, that perhaps alongside the love woven into these letters was a sense of belonging, a predestined mosaic yet to be fully realized. Hesitation brewed between each sip, mingling with the aromatic haze of tea. The tangy scent of familiar uncertainty clung to every breath. Here, in the dim sum tea house I'd resisted for months, nestled amidst clustering voices, I lingered on a precipice, trapped between what could be and the steady comfort of disbelief. Wraiths of steam swirled upwards, twisting into ephemeral forms before dissipating into the air above. The steam curled like distant dreams or the ghost of a hope lingering just outside my grasp. Comfort worn habitual, skepticism tugged at me, coaxing a retreat to rationality, safety net woven with fibers of doubt and half-hearted resolve. Yet beneath the clatter of chinaware, a voice within whispered possibilities edged with the warmth of uncharted affection. "What if?" it murmured softly, elongating the question, a hopeful pull against the very core of my cynicism. Were these letters, these ethereal whispers of affection, nothing more than an echo of my yearning? The little teapot cradled in my hands had grown tepid, like my waning disbelief. Therein lay the crux. Was I willing to shed the shield I had so carefully constructed? Could love transcend time, bridging hearts separated by what logic defiantly claimed impossible? A stubborn knot in my chest refused to loosen, strangled by fear of the unknown. Sitting in a room of shared silences, I could almost hear the spectral heartbeat of reassurance, lulled yet desperate in its imploration. Skepticism had cocooned itself about me so thoroughly, masking hope with layers of protective, biting pragmatism. The letters felt like taunting imbroglios, relics of fantasy urging me to tread paths where reason dared not follow. Truth dangled wickedly close, a fleeting specter within reach. Time seemed to pause, suspended with the sun, tethered to my wavering resolve as I stood amidst the clock tower's shadowed sanctuary. A medieval relic, its grand mechanics turning as slowly as the twirl of emotion claiming my soul. Golden sunlight spilled through clock faces, casting intricate patterns on the worn stone floor. Sunset bled into twilight, each amber hue playing across my doubts, casting long shadows that danced upon the years I'd guarded myself so fervently. This place, these whispers of time and sky, held the promise of eternity caught in amber, yet even in its serene embrace, my heart shuddered. Logic, always the staunch resistor, questioned the surreal, demanded solidity where none was forfeited. Could these writings possibly be destined from another temporal plane? Distant, rhythmic ticking resonated, each second a reminder of precious seconds slipping ever beyond my grasp. How could connections spanning time, knitted through professed ardor inscribed so lovingly, truly be more than an illusion? Science would dictate one thing, but my heart clung to fiction with an arching tenacity that rivaled the best of dreamed possibilities. The horizon, softly dawning with the shaded whispers of tomorrow's horizon, danced in the reflection of unfathomable potential. Even so, with each tick, the abyss between veracity and hope roared resplendent, daring me to leap. Could I overlook the scars of earthly hesitation to embrace the ephemeral ribbons grazing my very soul? Or would I linger, tethered, until tomorrow's revelations shattered the remnants of doubt, illuminating a course I dared to traverse? As the tide rolled in, it whispered promises of a tomorrow richer than dreams, each wave embodying the rhythm of hope, brushing against the shore of my latent desires. Standing on the sand, the air crisp with the sea's salt, stolen warmth from the sun, I reveled in the sensory calm. The distant calls of seabirds punctuated the gentle susurrus of the ocean. My fingers instinctively sought out the familiar texture of my sleeves, the fabric comforting in its repetitive cycle against my skin, a tactile reminder that the here and now still held sway over the thrilling uncertainties ahead. The letter I held trembled slightly in the sea breeze, its envelope starkly white against the rugged beachfront backdrop. In reading the flowing, ardent writing inside, I felt tender tentacles of anticipation curling effortlessly around my heart, ensnaring the earlier clutches of doubt. "Meet me," the words implored, and learn of the tales that can bind us tighter than the stars to the night. This anonymous author promised a connection so profound and unwavering that ignoring it seemed akin to silencing an intrinsic part of myself. As I folded the letter back into its envelope, I noticed the swirling impressions the letter left on the smooth sand, understanding that someday soon those impressions